Shalom, Akim. This your brother Abaka YAHAWAH, with a video to edify the body of YAHAWAHSHI. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to YAHAWAHSHI, Ba'ashim Rakah Kadash, and double honors to the elders and apostles from GMS, where I learned the truth from, and also from brothers with a like-minded doctrine. Putting this video together to edify the body of YAHAWAHSHI. I came across this video basically talking about a mass grave discovered in Tulsa, Tulsa. From if I'm not mistaken, it was the Black Wall Street bombing, and it was a mass grave that was discovered. I'm gonna let the video play, and I'm gonna bring some scriptures out. Now here's the video.
What's good, y'all? Hope everybody's well. Welcome to the Black Masculine News. Y'all know the deal. Just here to drop a little daily info on you, especially as it pertains to black men, right? So, in this particular situation, what we're looking at today is a case.
Just that really knows that this is for the ones that's learning that we are not black. We are the children of the Most High, which we are Israelites, the so-called black race, from the southern tribe, the so-called Jews. We are the Jews, and the children of Israel is the so-called black Latinos and Native Americans. We make up the 12 tribes of Israel. And I'm gonna just let the video, just for clarification, continuing with the video.
And history that many don't really know about. Now, I did talk about it a little while ago, but some new information came about that I thought was worth a return. Obviously, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but just to kind of put another feather in your cap in terms of what's going on. So we found this is a video actually here on YouTube that is dated October 2020. So as early, or I should say as late as last fall, there's still information coming out about Tulsa, Oklahoma. And if you're not familiar, Tulsa, Oklahoma is the Black Wall Street town massacre, right? If you haven't seen the HBO show Watchmen, you can actually find a clip of that on YouTube. Just put in HBO Watchmen and then put in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you'll see a clip, probably the realest clip I've seen about the actual, what the actual massacre looked like. At the end of the day, this was an incident that was based off of the jealousy of a neighboring white town at how the black town was thriving despite the Jim Crow laws that prevailed over the land. That didn't allow black folk to really, participate in the white economy. So Tulsa was one of those spaces where black folks were thriving, and it had a great deal of power. Had their own banks. They were even setting up settlements in Africa. There was all kind of things going on in Tulsa. Particular day, you had an elevator operator who some say tripped into the elevator, some say stepped on the foot of a white woman, but either way, she screams, he's arrested, and from there's talk of a lynch mob. Some black men gathered together at the courthouse to protect him, and from there all hell breaks loose because the neighboring town, much like Rosewood, Florida, used the incident as an excuse to burn down Tulsa. And with that, literally take the land of the people that were there. So for those that weren't put into a...
I'm gonna pause this real quick. Akim, still got to look something up real quick. All right, Salakia, Akim, I'm back. I just want to, like the narrator was saying, he said basically it was a neighboring town of so-called white people that were jealous of the prosperity of the so-called black people. You know, we was taken over here as slaves, and it was because the reason for that is because we went off disobeying the commandments, statutes, and law, statutes, and commandments of YAHAWAHSHI, YAHAWAHSHI. So we placed, I want to get that in Deuteronomy, and also the so-called white people, which is the Edomites, the biblical Edomites, which are our enemies. Our main adversary. You know, according to the scriptures, which is the truth. You know, that's the reason why these people treat you or have been treating our people the way they've been treating you. If you can notice, if you haven't noticed that, these people had never had respect for our people anyway. They done all these atrocities and heinous crimes towards our people, lynchings, rape, burning of burning of people. You know, feeding our little babies to alligators and all type of other atrocities. Who else would do this to a people unless they was your enemies? Even to this day, they treat you like an enemy. If you can have the eyes to see it. What I want to to the scripture is that's it's in Deuteronomy 28. 28 and 15. These are the curses. And go to Deuteronomy 28 and 1. It says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe and do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that Yahweh thy power will set thee on high above all the nations. Slakia, set thee on high above all nations of the earth. See, we was gonna be blessed, and that's the blessings is all the way goes all the way from one to verses one to or verses 2 to 14, but it says in verse 15, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. For what happened, we went off. We didn't obey the statutes and commandments of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. So we was taken over as slaves. And let me get that too. Also in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way thereof I shall speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there shall be and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. See, we was people brought over here through slave ships, and the word Egypt just means house of bondage. I'll get that for you real quick. See, Exodus 20 and 2, it says, I am Yahweh thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. See, bondage just means slavery or captivity, and come down here to Jeremiah 15 and 14 at the bottom, and it says, and I will make thee, and I will make thee to pass with thy enemies into a land which thou knowest not, For fire is kindled in my anger, which shall burn upon you. You know, that's what happened. We was brought over here through slave ships with our enemies um, on ships, you know. Just to point that out that it's a particular people that these curses or this happened to only a particular people, you know. And this also happened to the northern tribe, which is the so-called Latino and um, and Native American. Back to the video.
A concentration camp, many were slaughtered. And from there, whites literally just took ownership, sometimes of the homes that were still standing, sometimes of the land under the homes that were burnt down. Right? The whole city was taken over.
See, you said that right. Once they bombed the city, they took over the people, the so-called black people that were staying there. They took their lands, their properties, and deeds, and all that. So he go into that. And Deuteronomy 28 and 20. Let's see. It says that basically mentions that it says Deuteronomy 28 and 20. Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, rebuke, and rebuke in all that thou set thine hands to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doing, thereby thou hast forsaken me. In 21 it says, Yahweh shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whether thou go to possess it. You know, that was this pestilence. What you could call that a pestilence. What they did, you know, they basically was jealous. The jealousy of these white people, so-called white people, against these so-called black people. You know, going down to verse 25, and it says, Yahweh shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. You see that what happened when they bombed it? You know, they destroyed them. They basically set fire to the whole city, town. You know, they were smitten right before their enemies, which is like so-called white people. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and it shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth, and shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. Well, this means this was the slavery, but this also kind of applies to to once we got here in slavery. You know, we were smitten, still are. We were smitten in front of our enemies. And verses 30 it said, "Thou shalt be betrothed, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her." So that happened like during slavery. You know, they would sleep with the women, rape the women. You know, we the men that was married during those times. You know, the slave master, if he had his way with all the women there, married or not. You know, but the point is, thou shalt build a house. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. See that's what happened. They build their houses, and what happened? The so-called white people came in there and took over, and basically took over their land. You know, the houses that was there, the ones that was still standing, they just moved in. You know, took over the land or the houses that was destroyed. You know. Let's see, 45. That's what I want to get. 28 and 45, it says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee until thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he command thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. See, that lets you know that these curses only fit a particular people. You know, you find out who is going through these curses, what particular people is these curses falling upon. So they only fit a particular people. You know, the chosen people, which is the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know, just to bring clarification of who these people are. Just like the scripture says, your spirit, my spirit, bear witness with the Holy Spirit that we are the children of the Most High. You know, roughly paraphrasing. But going back to the video.
And so at this time, actually, I think I mentioned this before at Fresno State about really 10, 11 years ago. We had a documentary maker who made the film Banished, I believe, documentary film, come to the campus and actually talk about this. And I think he recorded an incident of an older white man telling a story about being a young boy at the time in Tulsa and literally walking by a cemetery after the town massacre and watching them load black bodies into the hay baler, right?
And Salakia on Agim. I want to get this other scripture too. This this Malachi. Micah chapter 2, verse 10. And this reads, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction." You know, this is not our rest. That's why all the people, even to this day, we got to march. Usually our people getting killed in the streets, you know, murdered. A lot of them not finding justice, you know. We've been marching for 30, 40 years now, you know. Still marching in the streets up to the day. It's 2021. We still marching in the streets, man. You know what I'm saying? Protesting and all that. You know, we are not. This is not our rest. We are not going to find rest in this country here. You know, we are not going to find rest until YAHAWAHSHI, which is a savior. Until he come back and take over this whole earth, man. It's as king, and as this is his rightful kingdom, the whole earth, you know, the whole world, these worlds, you know. Because we're not gonna find rest in this place here, man. They are your enemies. You know, you sent us here to serve basically like you can look at it like a jail sentence. You know, he sent us here to serve a jail sentence until the time come. You know, we just got to maintain which doing come back to our power of doing the statutes, the law, statutes, and commandments of YAHAWAHSHI. You know, these people are just straight up and down wicked. You know, you're not gonna find no rest here, man. You know, just simple and plain. Let me see if I left something out. Yeah, let me get this too. Isaiah 42, 42 and 22. Isaiah 42 and 22, and it reads, "But this is a people robbed and spoiled." You know, that's the point. You know, we are robbed and spoiled. Just look what the narrator was saying about what happened to the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, the Black Wall Street. They just bombed them, came in and robbed the people, took their possessions and all that. But I'm gonna let it play a little bit more, and you can see he go into more detail of what happened.
And the bodies were disseminated all throughout the actual soil of the cemetery. But this particular incident, or they found about 12 bodies so far, and that's of the time of this recording, that were part of a mass grave of those who were killed in Tulsa. Right? So they're still finding things out. I'm not sure how many they found in its entirety. If you have any more information about this, feel free to put it into the comment section. But this is definitely a historic occurrence because they're still finding things out. Now, the survivors from Tulsa tell the story very explicitly on what happened. They're very vocal about it. You can find recordings and interviews with them.
So you going into the survivors of survivors that still are how old is it? Yeah, the survivors of this Tulsa Oklahoma bombing of Black Wall Street
on YouTube yet again. So check it out. Share the story. Tell people about it because this is a part of the history. This is a part of African American history, and in many ways, it really lays the groundwork for understanding, what actually took place historically when you had black folk who followed all the rules and still were able to push beyond the limitations of racist policy and the full extent of the law, and regardless of doing all of that, they happen to live in the city that is the first one in human history to be bombed from the air. Tulsa was bombed from the air. The sheriffs apparently got into crop dusters and dropped Molotov cocktails from the sky. That you can see also depicted in the HBO clip. So don't get it twisted. This is one of the worst events in American history, and it is something to pay attention to. But there are arguments that there were up to 500 town massacres throughout United States history. It's just a measure of how many people and to what extent. And some towns weren't really towns, like Rosewood.
You heard that he says it was nearly 500 massacres of so-called, the so-called black people, man. And more likely it's all the tribes. This probably more likely happened to the Native Americans there, because we was all blended together. We all looked alike to them. If you had a darker complexion, that you was of the native tribes, they'd label you a Negro too. That they'd say you a Negro because of your complexion was dark or dark. So yeah, this happened to all our people, which is the Israelites.
It was a strange little stop in Florida, but it's not really a town, and you can literally drive by it now and not notice because it's not a full city the way Tulsa is. But you have neighboring folk who live next to the Greenwood area in Tulsa whose families still have the deeds to the homes they lived in, still have memories, still have information. Occurrences happen throughout the United States, and there would be neighboring town folk who were still alive that still had the paperwork. There was one, I think this goes back to the Banished documentary I mentioned, where there was an older black woman, who was interviewed about a town massacre her family was involved in. This was not Tulsa, nor was it Rosewood. And she actually told the interview, she showed the paperwork of the home that they owned still. And then when they went to the home, she actually showed where her parents were buried on the land. And there were white folks living in the homes that refused to even acknowledge it. The courts refused to acknowledge her claim. None of that was taken seriously. And the interviewer actually pointed out that one of the ways that he found many of these town massacres was simply by going to cities who would have no newspaper, printings for a certain time period for like a month. You know what I mean? Even some of the daily news wouldn't come out for a good period of time. And that was the way they kind of censored the information. And then he would begin.
Oh, you heard what the brother said. The guy here said. That there was a lady in particular. She had deeds to the land that were like a massacre of this sort happened. And then the people, the so-called white people, just moved in and took over the land, the property, or whatever. And she had deeds and proof. She showed where her parents was buried on the land and all that. What they do? They just basically ignored it. Disregard whatever she had, man, paper with all that. That goes back to Isaiah, what I just read, but I'm gonna just bring it out again. Isaiah 42 and 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled, you know. This is you got robbed and spoiled, you know. She simple and plain, you know. And it goes here. They are continuing on. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are all hid in prison houses, and they are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. You know, nobody's going to restore. Nobody's restoring these people. We are not being restored to finding any restitution when things happen to us, man. You know, for the most part, you know. Generally speaking, you know what I'm saying? That these people, the rest of you know, people talk about reparations for slavery and all this. You're not gonna get no reparations. These people's not gonna do anything for you, man. People not gonna do anything for our people, man. You know that you might as well just hang that up, man. You know, they can talk all this they want. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third, but our reparations coming in the kingdom. You know, when YAHAWAHSHI come. You know, this land just like us. It said in Malachi. This is not our rest. This is a land. This is a polluted land. It's polluted because of all the bloodshed that happened by these so-called white people, which are the Edomites. This land is polluted, you know, and only how you can cleanse the land is through the blood of the people that polluted it. The blood of the people that polluted. That means they must be slaughtered. They must be killed, and that's what's going to happen during the second coming of YAHAWAHSHI, which the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. You know, he's coming back to destroy this whole this whole world. You know, especially over here in Babylon the Great, which is AKA America. You know, he's going to slaughter the masses of people, man. You know, but that's another lesson. And I'm gonna let it continue playing a little bit.
Go around and interview different people in the neighboring black town and find out what occurred. So there were quite a few of these in American history. Many of them were buried. We're still finding out information about a lot of them. And Tulsa is one of the the most known, and they're still finding bodies. So there are small towns all over where this information is still very much under the table. We still have sundown towns in America. Nobody really pays attention to that. Sundown towns basically meant you had to leave before sundown if you were black, or you'd be lynched. They still exist.
Yep, you heard he said sundown towns. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. If you don't black, if you're not in by sundown, you are liable. You're liable to being lynched, hanged. You know what I'm saying? You're liable for a hanging. You know, yeah, these laws still apply in these southern states. You know, I seen it. I seen it for myself. I looked it up. You know.
Right? So these are things that still occur, still impact people, and definitely still impact black progress. In as much as we want to pretend like they don't, these occurrences are still very much a part of how America functions, even if it is under the table, even if it doesn't make the evening news. All right? So that said, you guys have a good one. I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, that was a good video. I want to bring one more video out. You know, just to show the natives of
Fui al baño y me escapaba.
This is basically of the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Mexicans, which are there, the Issachar, tribe of Issachar. You know, the Mexican, it says fruit of Mexico, cheap labor. You know, see, they in the fields there. You know, they in the fields just like the so-called black people was in the fields. You know, they give the jobs that nobody really want to do to the so-called Mexicans to do. You know, I'm gonna just let this video play for a little bit.
Los que ya no aguantamos el salario de hambre que recibimos, los que ya no aguantamos de ya no recibir nuestras prestaciones de ley, fuimos los que despertamos día con día, por eso nos pagan 100 pesos.
So he basically talking about the labor here. He said we get paid $7, $8, $9, $10 a day for their labor. You know what I'm saying? You know, imagine that you was getting $7, $8, $9, $10 a day for your labor. You probably been working 8 to 10 hours, 8 to 10, 12 hours a day. You know, you only getting paid $7 to $10. That's crazy.
110, 120, 130, hasta 150 pesos, podemos recuperar nuestra dignidad si lo hacemos de manera organizativa.
Sinaloa, a place you may have heard of because of the Sinaloa cartel. And this is a shrine of Malverde. He's the patron saint of drug traffickers. But the state of Sinaloa is not only known because of this, it's also the breadbasket of Mexico. And we've come here because we're hearing that there's somehow a modern day slavery going on in the fields of this country. And migrant workers who travel from field to field are being treated very badly, and they're living in very inhuman conditions. So we want to go see.
You heard that right? From slavery. She said slavery, right? I might have to bring this out again, you know. It's a Deuteronomy. (28). Let's see this. Turn 28 and 16. He said, "Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field." See, these people are cursing their own cities and cursing their field. Cursed shall thou be in thy basket in thy store. Cursed shall thou cursed shall thou be. Cursed shall be the fruits of thy body and the fruits of thy land, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest out. You know, you're going to get back. They're going to further explain, like, they even had their little children out there all day picking, in the fields, picking fruit, vegetables, or whatever they doing. They got their kids out there, you know what I'm saying? That's why I said, cursed shall be the fruits of their body, which means their children, you know. Let that play.
And investigate. This man believes in the cult of Malverde. He moves around the chapel with a huge bag of pot, and he even tried to sell it to us. He says people grow pot and poppy because agriculture pays so badly. It's Mexico's dilemma in a nutshell. Before drug trafficking kicked off here, people grew tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, and other vegetables. The state of Sinaloa still feeds most of Mexico, and then exports half of the produce to the U.S. Once the fruit and vegetables cross the border into the U.S., they're inspected carefully and tested for pesticides. But while the U.S. Department of Agriculture has jurisdiction to check the produce, it can't inspect the working conditions of those who picked it. Jornaleros, or day laborers, are mostly an uprooted community of migrants, too poor to have land or crops of their own, and constantly traveling from one state to the other, following the harvest and the promise of a daily wage. They're made up of indigenous communities from poor states like Oaxaca or Guerrero, and migrate north to Sinaloa and Baja California. Some cross the border into the United States. The unlucky ones rotate endlessly within the country and become internal migrants. In the US, they make nearly $7 an hour, while in Mexico, it takes them a whole day to make that much.
They going back to the curses, you know. That's what it says. Slovakia said these people will be cursed. Cursed shall that be in thy city, and cursed shall that be in the field. Cursed shall they be in the basket and that's in that storehouse, you know. It'll play a little bit more.
We're at Isla del Bosque, a remote town forgotten by authorities, which explains the huge number of children getting ready to work. Their entire families, with babies too. People here offer up their day's labor to the highest bidder.
So they even got their whole families out there working, little babies too. The lady just said, the narrator, got their little babies out there working in the field. Their labor to the highest bidder, trading their labor to the highest bidder.
Los tratan bien, jálense. Si no me gusta, no me trataron bien, me doy a la fuga porque no puedo estar esclavizado. ¿Verdad? El que guste y el que quiera irse, ¿verdad? A trabajar, porque si van a ir a tirar barra, no van a ser técnicos de la montaña.
¿No van a ir con él? ¿Por qué?
Nosotros ya conocemos a esos contratistas.
Nosotros ya vamos a ir para Guerrero.
Nosotros ya conocemos a la gente.
¿Ya lo conoces? ¿Y no confían?
No confían nada.
The truck is full and they're telling us we can leave. So, hola.
Ya tengo más de 20 años viviendo aquí en la isla del bosque.
Ah, ¿tú vives acá? ¿Eres de acá?
Sí. Mi mamá falleció aquí y aquí me quedé. Pero mi mamá era de Durango.
¿De Durango?
Sí.
¿Y hay gente de todas partes de aquí? ¿De Guerrero y así?
Sí, de muchas partes.
Sí.
De muchas partes vienen a trabajar.
Today we're going from the town. 20 minutes away, there's a field. Most people we've talked to, crazily enough, don't even know where they're going or what they're going to pick up, what product. It's just sort of day by day. It's really a dilemma because what some of these women, the mothers, were telling me is that they don't see this as child labor at all. They just say that they don't have anywhere else to leave their kids, so they come with and they help out. And for them, this is something that they've always done for generations, and they see it as something quite normal.
See that? So you got their children, they say they don't even see it as like basically child labor laws and all that doesn't apply. They don't even see it as, they got to make a living. Again, it says, cursed shall be the fruits of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flock of their sheep. You see, it says earlier in the video that they don't even have fruits or vegetables that they can gather for themselves. That's basically all I want to point out for these two videos. Just to edify the body of YAHAWAHSHI and just to make clarification that we are all the same people. We are the chosen people of YAHAWAHSHI, which are the Israelites. Yahweh's chosen people. And just to show the similarities that we are all only. This has happened to a particular people. You can there's a lot of documentaries and history that books and things like that basically go into that we are all the same people. The 10 tribes that came over here to the Americas, which they are called the Americas now. But which was never inhabited before by any by mankind until the 10 tribes came over here after the Assyrian captivity. But yeah, that's all I want to put together. I know it was kind of long, but the water to YAHAWAHSHI he gave me the spirit to put this video together, and the water again to the apostles and the elders and the men of GMS who I learned this truth from, and the Akim, they got a like-minded doctrine. Shalom to the body of YAHAWAHSHI, and to the next time, Shalom.